Is cold calling dead, and should you sell to every single person that you get on a call with? In this video, I'm going to debunk 10 popular sales myths that are holding you back from growing your business. And once you understand some of these truths in sales, I think your business will grow significantly. Sales myth number 1 is that cold email is dead. I hear this actually all the time. People saying that sending cold emails to prospects will not yield any more sales. It won't work anymore. It's just not effective. And they think this because they don't check their emails or respond to cold emails that they receive. So they think by default, nobody else does. On top of that, they get the worst cold emails ever written and they think to themselves, these are so horrible, who would ever buy from these? When in reality, there are actually people doing it correctly. But there's definitely a higher barrier to entry when you want to have an effective cold email campaign. Before, you were able to just send out 1 million emails with the same exact message to everybody online with no problems with deliverability. But of course, Google and Microsoft are cracking down pretty heavily on who can send out cold emails. And this causes a lot of infrastructure and general personalization needs. For example, you cannot send 100 emails out a day from one account safely. I'd say it's around 30. You need to send out more personalized messaging. You can't just send out the same thing over and over again. It will get blocked quickly. The best way to actually sell is through personalization and using industry standards to dictate your outbound strategy. Myth number 2 is that you need 10 SDRs to get a reasonable output in sales. I hear this a lot, and I think a lot of companies just throw money at employees in hopes that it'll get them more sales. They think to themselves, there's more employees working on this problem, so it has to be solved quicker. As a matter of fact, though, I usually see the opposite. Accountability is a lot harder to dodge if you're not the only person on the sales team or if you're not at an org that really prioritizes its salespeople. So throwing money at the problem actually makes your sales worse for the most part because nobody's actually getting pushed to do anything. You can have a really small sales team with a really high impact. I've seen so many companies use tools like Clay and SmartLead and Instantly and Orem for dialing, combine all of them, and frankly run insanely effective and efficient sales departments. The third myth I want to talk about is that AI written emails don't work. I can understand this argument if you're talking about an email that's completely written by AI, but even that is getting to the point where the emails are actually written quite well. Tools like Twain are really powerful and actually quite good at writing effective cold outbound, sometimes better than SDRs or sales organizations that I see in actual companies. And I can say with certainty that if you're writing AI generated snippets to put into a templated email, they're actually very effective. AI generation is just as good as your prompting is at the end of the day. If you're able to prompt an AI to write effective emails, it will do so. The fourth is that cold calling is dead. A lot of people think that cold calling is dead because nobody actually picks up phone calls from people they don't know, much less listen to the sales pitch that the person on the other end tries to get to them with. However, I've heard from so many sales orgs on my recent calls that cold calling is working incredibly well for high ticket sales. I highly recommend going and giving it a try if your org hasn't, because I think, frankly, so many people are abandoning it that it's becoming less and less saturated over time, making it actually more effective. And using AI tools like Orem can make your cold calling significantly more effective. Number 5 is that all salespeople are extroverts. This is kind of going to the psychology behind sales, but I hear all the time that salespeople have to be these bubbly, excited people. But honestly, a lot of the best salespeople I've met are pretty introverted and just value-based. They're not trying to sell you. They're not trying to trick you. They're trying to just relay the value of their product in a pretty calm, low-key way. And honestly, that resonates with prospects a lot more than you think. Prospects are pretty sick of actual salespeople, people that are hounding them and trying to trick them psychologically into closing on a product. I found that being calm, collected, and honestly introverted if you have to be isn't always a horrible thing. Sales myth number 6 is that the only way to get a ton of sales is by blasting emails to millions of people. People think that high volume is the only way to achieve really good outbound campaigns. However, I think when people turn to high volume immediately, they ignore a lot of the tangible benefit in running more segmented, smaller audience campaigns. If you're able to run more segmented campaign, split your ICP up into a bunch of different sectors and reach out to each of one of them with more tailored copy, your conversion rate will almost inevitably be higher. And frankly, it can do a lot better than those spray and pray email campaigns that you're used to. On top of that, deliverability on more segmented campaigns will by default be higher because the copy isn't being sent to so many people. And ideally, if you use a little bit of personalization via tools like Clay, then you can do an even better job of making your deliverability higher. Sales myth number 7 that I hear quite a bit is always try to close. And I completely understand why this is the mentality of most people in sales, but I've just seen so much benefit in being honest with people on calls when they're not a great fit for your product or service. When somebody is genuinely interested in what you have to sell and they present you the problem that they need solved, and you tell them that your product frankly just isn't the right solution for this problem, and you recommend them an alternative solution that might not make you money, the residual and kind of intangible benefit of that is really unspoken. People trust you significantly more. They'll probably refer you to people who actually do fit the problem that you're trying to solve. And as a whole, it just benefits you significantly to be honest with regards to whether your product or service actually benefits the person you're on the call with. Number 8 is sales is all about about relationships. And I would say this is kind of a half myth, because I think sales in general is about building a relationship with the person that you are trying to sell to. Obviously, organic and real relationships will always win in the end, but part of this that is a myth is that you need previous relationships with people to succeed in sales. I really don't think that's the case. You might need to build new ones, you might need to meet new people, but it's not just the Nepo babies that are going to beat you in sales. It's people who genuinely try to make authentic connections with people down the line and then ideally sell to them. The ninth sales myth that I want to dispel is that AI will replace salespeople. I think SDRs, BDRs, and AEs serve such an incredibly valuable purpose within a sales organization, and I highly doubt that AI can replace them anytime soon. Don't get me wrong, AI can replace your entire top of funnel. They're making really good AI cold callers, but ultimately a human connection is what drives most sales to close. People who even have an inkling of a thought that they're communicating with an AI will likely just stop talking to you. They're not as interested in your product. They want to talk to a real person who genuinely wants to form a connection, a long-term business relationship, and ultimately buy from them. So the final sales myth that I want to dispel is that you need personalization in your messaging. This has become a massive fad as of recent, and it's very fair because personalization is, of course, incredibly helpful. However, the power of your offer is still by far the most important thing in your outbound messaging. If I sent you an email saying, "This is not a scam, I will give you $1 million, and all you have to do is say yes to this email," and you actually weren't a scam, you would need no personalization whatsoever in your email. However, if you have a less differentiated offer, something that doesn't really have that much upfront value and people need to invest in long term, and you really need to sell on it, you're then going to need personalization. So personalization is not necessary. I would say it's recommended for a lot of cases, but you definitely don't need it. And honestly, I would recommend trying it without personalization first, because usually personalized tools like Clay do cost money. Those are 10 sales myths that I don't think are necessarily true, and I wanted to put my 2 cents on why they are not. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Hopefully this video was helpful, and happy prospecting.